Hi friends! So today I have a very exciting video, at least it's exciting for me. It's actually a collaboration video with my friend Lydia from Lydia Sin, and I absolutely adore her. I was overjoyed when she asked me to do this video with her because I have admired her and looked up to her since I started on YouTube and even before that when I watched her channel. She is an amazing person and I kind of consider her my internet big sister. We're also both former journalists, so we kind of get each other and have had a very interesting job in the past in common. So seeing how much we have in common, I think it makes sense that she asked me to do a video with her on our debt breaking points. So that moment in time when we knew that we had to change something massively and get out of debt. And mine is actually journalism related, job related. When I was in Columbus, Mississippi about 5 years ago, I was working at a newspaper called the Columbus Packet, and it was kind of a yellow tinged kind of crime tabloid. And my job there was, I was lifestyles editor. I had created this section for the paper that wasn't blood and guts and crime and mugshots, and it was actually doing very well. And after I'd been there for a while, and the section was doing well, it was well established, I'd been there for over a year, my boss at the time decided that for money reasons, they were going to have to lay me off because while the section was doing well and it was established, they could pay someone to run it for cheaper than me who created it. So I was out of work for almost 5 months and I was terrified because at that point I had no savings. I had heard of the Dave Ramsey plan. I knew that at some point I needed to get my stuff together. I wasn't paying on my student loans at all. I was about 2 years out of college and I had deferred them because, well, the government said I was making a low enough salary that I didn't have to pay anything on them. I, of course, didn't realize at the time that the amount of interest that was growing on them was insane and I was, adding thousands of dollars to my debt each year. But I was sitting in my apartment and I was on unemployment. I was barely able to afford my apartment and food. And I was just looking at this proposed budget that I had, because I knew about Dave Ramsey plan. I decided I need to do something to get out of this mess. And the only way that I could see any sort of future for me other than waiting tables, which for a little while I thought I'm just going to have to get a job at a restaurant. And there's nothing wrong with jobs at a restaurant, but I had a 4-year degree at that point that I needed to pay off, and it was going to be very hard to do that. So I was looking for jobs. I was applying everywhere all over the country, and somewhere right in that time of those 5 months while I was looking for work, something clicked and I said, I'd made proposed budgets and I was I'd done this before, I'd made budgets before, but I'd never followed them. And I told myself, Lord, if you will just let me get a job, I will actually follow through with this plan. I will get out of debt. I will make a better life for myself. And I got a job down in Hammond and it paid $26,000 a year, which is not a lot. It was actually only $1,000 more than I'd been making at the Packet. And it was going to be more expensive to live down there. And I said, that's okay. I have to follow through with this. I need to get out of debt. And so as soon as I got down there, I made a budget. I started sticking with it. I started getting out of debt. And then a couple of years later, I was able to get another job and move to Mena, where I was able to make more money and put even more debt. And of course, while I was down in Hammond, I started this channel, which eventually started to add a little bit more money I could put to debt. And now, the date of this video, the date that this video is scheduled to come out, is my first day working at Texas A&M at a brand new job, making even more money than I thought I would ever make back in my days being unemployed, $33,000 in debt, and absolutely, completely broke and hopeless. So that was my debt breaking point. It might be the best thing that ever happened to me because previous to being laid off, I was getting a paycheck every week and I was spending it, and it didn't seem like that it was that bad because I could pay for my apartment, and I could pay for my food, and I could pay to do a couple of fun things, but I wasn't thinking about my debt It was out in the background somewhere. It was something that I knew I'd deal with eventually. And then all of a sudden, when I didn't have that weekly paycheck anymore, everything kind of came crashing down. And I knew I had to do something. It really was a breaking point where what you've been doing so far isn't working. You know, you went from being gainfully employed and able to keep up on all your bills and defer your student loans and ignore them to barely having money to make rent and your car insurance payment. And it was that fast. And those were some of the things that Dave Ramsey had been talking about, was the living paycheck to paycheck cycle. And I hadn't realized that I had been doing that, but I was. And so I decided I couldn't do it anymore. I needed to make a plan with my money. I needed to start working to get out of that debt. So if I was ever unemployed again, all I had to do was worry about getting the money to live off of and keeping the money to live off of versus having this giant debt looming and getting closer and closer and closer. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, if not the best decision I've ever made. So, I mean, within a couple of months, I'm going to be debt-free. I'm in a brand new town, brand new job, making almost double what I was making 5 years ago. So, I'm pretty thrilled about that. So, I would love to hear about your debt-breaking point story. And what was the moment that you really decided that you needed to change the way you do things with your money and get out of debt? That was mine. And looking back on it now from such a distance, I have such, hindsight's 20/20, and I can see it so clearly that it seemed like that was just a moment of clarity that I had, where normally it's only when you're looking back you can see that clearly. But at that time, when I was unemployed, I could see clearly for just a second that it was something that I had to do. And I stuck with that. And I'm so glad I've stuck with it, because I'm about to be out of debt. And I'm never going to have debt again. There may be a house one day, but I'm never going to have credit card debt. I'm never going to have student loan debt. It's going to be amazing. So I cannot wait to hear Lydia's debt-breaking story. I can't wait to hear y'all's debt-breaking stories. And if you're coming over here from Lydia's channel, welcome. I would love to have you stick around. My channel is about to get real interesting. I've been on here for 3 years this month, and you can go back and watch some of my old videos as I'm clawing my way out of debt. And very shortly, you're going to see what it's like, for me at least, to live life not having that anymore. So I'm very excited about it, and I would love to have you here with me. So thanks again to Lydia for inviting me. You the best, girl. I'll see you soon.